All right, well, we will get started then. So, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining Senator Bob Casey's Earth Day celebration. Today's session is hosted by U.S. Senator Bob Casey's office and the United States Department of Agriculture. We're grateful for everyone taking the time to join this call today. I want to start by introducing myself and the other panelists on this call. My name is Andrea Guscott, and I am one of Senator Bob Casey's constituent advocates. Also on this call from Senator Casey's office is constituent advocate Maria Hernandez. From USDA, we are joined by Denise Coleman and Ashley Lenig. We're grateful for all the panelists' willingness to join our office for today's webinar. And just before we get started, I'll quickly note that if you have any questions, please hold them until the end of all the presentations when we will have a Q&A session. We ask that you please keep your questions general and applicable to as many people as possible since this is a public call. If you have questions regarding your own specific situation, contact information for Senator Casey's office and USDA will be provided during the presentation for you to reach out to directly. And at this time, I am going to turn over the call to Ashley and Denise to delve more into the specifics.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Andrea, for having us on, and thanks to Senator Casey's staff for coordinating this effort so we can talk to you a little bit about Earth Day today and the services that we provide with the U.S. Department of Agriculture Natural Resources Conservation Service. We are a federal agency. We are out in the local field offices, and practically every county is serviced by a federal employee within RCS. We work on a voluntary basis to help producers help the land. So we work with producers who want to put conservation practices on their landscape. And they can do that with either technical or financial assistance help from NRCS. So today, it's my pleasure to be with you on a beautiful day. I'm sure many of in our farming community are working hard today, and maybe you've come in for a break, but we sincerely looking forward to the discussion today as we talk about some of the great opportunities that rest with USDA Natural Resources Conservation Services Program. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Ashley for a few minutes, and then she can introduce herself, and then I'll kind of talk about our fundamental principles or values that we use.
Sure. You can go ahead and advance to the next slide. Well, I'm Ashley Lenig. I work with Natural Resources Conservation Service, obviously, with many of our conservation programs, including the Conservation Stewardship Program, Conservation Innovation Grants, and National Water Quality Initiative. We just want to tell you a little bit about our agency and what we do to get results on the ground for conservation.
So as I said, we are a federal agency, but we are a decentralized federal agency in that we work in approximately 47 local service centers out there on the landscape and in Pennsylvania. And so we're in, most of the time, we're working hand in hand with local conservation districts to deliver conservation assistance to producers. So in many times, if you look up Conservation District or USDA Local Service Center, our folks are right there on the ground promoting and providing federal services. So that's a distinction within RCS that makes us a little different from many other federal agencies that may only have a regional representative or a state representative. In NRCS, we have here in Pennsylvania, we have nearly 200 employees out there on the landscape providing conservation assistance directly to private landowners and agricultural producers. So a little bit about what our value system is. For many of you, if you're not aware of what USDA NRCS does, is all of our work is completely voluntary, meaning you as a producer or an interested landowner you're not mandated to come talk to us, and we're not regulatory in any way. We want to help producers who want to make a change on their farming operation or in their forest operation. And so we want producers to come to us if they want selections that are science-based, and they want to implement systems that are site-specific to their farm or their forest. So we very much want to make sure that as producers and that are interested in those services, what you bring to us is completely voluntary. Also, what you bring to us is completely private, is kept between you as the client and us as your service provider. And if you want to keep that confidential, you are more than welcome, and there is no issue with that. Producers who are concerned about regulators getting information or those kinds of things, certainly we do not disclose that. So we do not disclose your farm information outside of our business records. There are some partners out there who want to track this information, particularly those if you live in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, but that is your decision as a producer, and it is up to you to sign a release of that information. So I just want to make that clear because sometimes we very much, because we're a federal agency, people get confused about that. We are completely voluntary. We do site-specific conservation planning and site-specific implementation of conservation systems on the landscape. So with that said, I'll turn it back to Ashley.
Next slide, please. I just wanted to tell you that our mission is to help people help the land. And so you can see here shows some of our activities and everything from urban farms, livestock operations, cropland, pastureland. We work with grants for innovation. So our goal here is to help private landowners make good conservation decisions that can be good stewards on the land. Next slide. So here are a number of things that we can help you with, including improving your soil health to reduce and reducing erosion, conserve and protect water resources, improve air quality, conserve energy, manage manure and nutrients on the land, manage pastures and grasslands, create and improve wildlife and aquatic habitat, manage forest lands, certify or transition to organic farming, install a high tunnel, for a seasonal high tunnel, restore, protect, and enhance wetlands, and permanently protect farmland. So a wide variety of activities we can help you with.
And next slide. In just a little bit, those red dots represent where we are across the Commonwealth. And so you'll see that we're in a lot of counties, and kind of where we're sparsely located is actually around the Allegheny National Forest. We do work with U.S. Forest Service, but you can see here from this map that we have a lot of touch points out there to help deliver conservation to agricultural producers and forestry landowners. And so just a little bit, the next slide, if I can. We are very excited to be moving to Philadelphia. We are going to be housed in the Leon Sullivan building, and literally they are obtaining permits at the moment to move us into a local USDA urban office. We will be at the Leon H. Sullivan building located on North Broad Street in Philadelphia. And it is here where we will be co-located with the Farm Services Agency. We will have each agency, NRCS and the Farm Services Agency, will have 2 employees there. For NRCS, we'll have a soil scientist who can provide technical soil services to producers, particularly urban producers. We have that can be determination of heavy metals, that can be helping with soil health activities, as Ashley has said, and enhancements. That can be helping growers with pollinators or irrigation or a variety of things. We also, I think this is an exciting opportunity in that We hope that this location is going to be a nexus for other conservation organizations. Right now, there is no conservation district in the city of Philadelphia, but we hope at some point in time that we can help get those services as well, those local and state services to Philadelphia constituents, and that they can be we can be a touchdown station for a new conservation district there as well. So looking forward to that. We expect, if all goes well, to be in that building by July 1st.
Great. Next up, I will mention that we do offer assistance to all the counties in the state, whether or not we have an office there. In some cases, we have an office that's covers several counties, or at least, 2 counties. Next slide, please. As far as types of assistance that we provide, we offer free technical assistance, which can involve conservation planning, free site visits, free inventory and evaluation of your farm to see what's going on there and what we could do to further improve the resource concerns on the land. We offer financial assistance, which is incentive payments for work that you're going to do on the land through a financial assistance contract. And as Denise pointed out earlier, all assistance is voluntary. It's not required. If you do sign a contract or something, we do expect you to uphold the terms and conditions of that contract.
And we should also say that our services are free as government employees. So it's really important that, our constituents know that you don't have to pay for our services. We're here. Part of your taxpayer dollars is going towards us helping producers and forestry landowners implement wise decisions. So next slide, please. So the basis of what we do and how we do it is a conservation plan. So I often tell our field folks, plan the work and then work the plan. And so what we do is we go out and we assess the local resources, the concerns that may be on your farm or forestry operation. Maybe you have erosion, or maybe you have nutrient problems. Maybe you have too many animals for too small of a landscape. So we go out there, we work one-on-one with the producer to develop a conservation plan to address those problems or those concerns that you may have. We also look at opportunities as we're writing a plan. We look at what do you have that may be of interest to you in as you work with your your farm operation. And that may be, maybe you have the opportunity to help a declining species. Maybe you're in a special migratory flyway for a specific warbler, or you might be in a situation where you can help along a stream with a local mussel. We hope to inform you of that particular thing. That's what happens when you ask for our services. We're out there telling you about opportunities for conservation on your private land. So just moving forward with that. And that, again, that conservation plan is developed by us, but it's informed by you. So we will be working with you hand in hand to develop that plan and identifying both the resource concerns that you want to address on that plan, as well as developing some potential practices and conservation systems of practices that may help you address those concerns. And to be clear with the federal program, it's only what you want to work on. So you're not necessarily, if you only at this point in time want to work on the 10 acres of cropland, we will write a plan for those 10 acres of cropland. So just to be clear on that, we want to make sure that this is a plan written for you based on your objectives and what you want to meet. And what we're doing is bringing our knowledge, skills, and abilities to help you address those resource concerns. So I'll turn it over to Ashley a little bit to add to that, because she is a planner, and so she can provide some examples of what she does.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think Denise already mentioned this, but the plan is the basis. So we need to put the plan first. We do often have folks come in, they're interested in financial assistance, but it all starts with that initial site visit, talking about your site specific area there and what your goals and objectives are. Then we come up with, we evaluate what's out there and we come up with alternatives for you and discuss different things you could try on your land. And then the plan is the result of that, what you're agreeing to do on the landscape with our assistance. And then we go from there. Next slide, please. So we think it's important to mention that Hugh Hammond Bennett was the father of soil conservation, and he said, "There's no virtue in planning merely for the sake of planning. Unless plans can be translated into action, planning becomes a profitless mental exercise." So we don't want it just to be a piece of paper on a shelf. We want it to be something that's actually being implemented on the landscape to improve things for future generations.
And we have many producers out there that do not want to go the federal cost share route. They do not want financial assistance. And so we do a lot of just conservation planning within Pennsylvania that just says, I'm a producer and I want to know what crop rotations I should put on my landscape. I don't want to do any cost share, but I want that technical advice of what to do to make sure that I do not have erosion or I do not have nutrients leaching on my crop field. So very much the plan is there, but the plan is there to really implement actions that the producer can do with financial assistance from NRCS or other partners, or they can just do on their own. So some examples of typical advice that we give that may not necessarily be cost shared is ideas on conservation crop rotations, seeding mixtures to encourage pollinators. We have tree planting mixes that people may be interested in, but they want to do it on their own schedule and on their own dime. And so we are here with that technical advice. When NRCS provides technical advice to you, it's all well researched and it's vetted through across the nation and a lot of land grant universities. And so when we put conservation practices on the ground, they must meet a minimum standard and prior to that practice being put on the ground so that you feel confident as a landowner and an ag producer, those particular practices have all been vetted by not only by we in NRCS across the whole nation, but by land grant universities like Penn State, by local technical consultants, by a variety of state agencies and others, so that you can be assured that when we're putting a conservation practice on the ground and we're following a conservation plan, that those practices meet a certain technical standard. So with that said, we'll turn it over to probably what a lot of people are interested in, and that's the financial assistance.
Next slide, please. So let's talk about applying for financial assistance. We wanted to show you what our application form looks like. Of course, this is very small, but just to give you an idea there, you put your name and address, telephone number, and what you're applying for. But before you really are going to apply, you're going to need to stop by our sister agency, USDA Farm Service Agency, and set up some farm and producer records. So if you don't already have records established with the Farm Service Agency, you're going to need to show them your property, and they will give it a unique number that we use here at USDA to bring it up in our mapping system and keep track of your records. So some eligibility forms that you would be filling out have to do with conservation compliance. There's an adjusted gross income form, and then you're going to submit your application with us, and that starts the process.
Okay. And so a lot of that is really the biggest job for you right at the moment for as an ag producer is just come in and sign up. And we will very much help you. Don't let these things like conservation compliance or adjusted gross income kind of scare you. What that the adjusted gross income means is that what it used to be called is the Scottie Pippen rule, and it basically says that USDA is making sure that the money that we give to folks is not going to millionaires or billionaires out there. So that's mostly, most of us aren't at that level, so most of us are indeed eligible. And then the conservation compliance is just an assurity measure to make sure that you aren't farming at a significant erosion rate or filling in wetlands. So those are all some kinds of things that we talk about with producers. But the first step is really the most important step, and that's just putting your name there so that we can take your application and rank you in one of these programs, and actually go out to your farm and visit and provide advice and give you some ideas. So Ashley's going to talk a little bit about the financial assistance programs that we offer. Next slide.
Yeah, so I have some of them listed here. The larger one I think of that people think of as our fixer-upper program is called the Environmental Quality and Incentives Program. So oftentimes people come to us and say, I have an issue with waste getting into the stream, or I have an issue with manure or something like that. And so what we do is we would take your application and go out and look at it and see what could be done. We also have the Conservation Stewardship Program. We talk about that program as being to reward the best and motivate the rest. That's looking at areas that already have a high level of conservation and ways that they can further enhance the types of work they already are doing there. In addition, we have several easements that we can do under the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program, ACEP. Next slide, please. We have the Agricultural Management Assistance Program and then the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. I'll go into these a little bit more on the following slides, what they are. So let's just go right away to the next slide. So this is giving you a little more information on the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. We call that EQIP for short, since it is a mouthful. It's open to ag producers and non-industrial private forest land owners, and it's often for structural and management conservation practices, such as what you can see in this picture here. Manure storage, barnyard improvement. We also do things like organic farming, soil health. You're able to do forest management plans and installing forest practices through that program as well. The main goal here with a project like the one you see here is to keep the clean water clean. So we're often looking at installing roof gutters to keep that water away from the manure, and then sending this manure into a manure storage where it can be captured and then spread on the landscape at the right rate, at the right time, the right location for the plant to uptake it. And so it's not just laying out there and running off into our streams.
And I think the next slide, if we can show that, kind of shows before and after. So as Ashley said, you can see that probably the biggest one is the photo to the right, where you can imagine if you had cows in that barnyard, they were up to their knees in manure and mud, and that was creating not only a health concern for the cattle, but also a manure nutrient problem, a runoff problem, as well as maybe potentially, depending on what soils you're on, a leaching problem into the groundwater. And so what NRCS did in the after photo down below is we installed a concrete paddock. And you'll see that around that concrete paddock, there are curbs, there is fence, there is exactly, you can't see too closely on this particular slide, but as Ashley said, keeping clean water clean. When we put these type of paddocks in, we make sure that there's a gutter system to collect all that water coming off the roof, and it is diverted around that barnyard so that we are in essence keeping clean water clean. And then I'll turn it over to Ashley because she's to talk a little bit about the other slides.
So I will say that you'll see that there's grass below that area. So we often have a filter strip or something. This is looking like it's going downhill, and probably at the bottom of that hill is a stream. So you want to have vegetation in place. You can see on the left-hand side, it looks to me like that was overgrazed, and we would have maybe developed a pasture system, a prescribed grazing plan where we're rotating the animals around, where we're fencing out the stream there and having it be revegetated to protect the water quality. And as Denise mentioned, these things aren't good for animal health either. You get mastitis and things. Next slide, please. Okay, on to the Conservation Stewardship Program, which is the largest conservation program in the nation. It works with ag land and forest lands and helps producers build on their existing conservation efforts, as I mentioned briefly before. Some of the benefits could be improved cattle gains per acre, increased crop yields, decreased inputs, improvements to wildlife habitat or their populations, and better resilience to weather extremes. This program does have a minimum annual payment. So if you're selecting enhancement and your payment is lower than this, it would be bumped up to this minimum annual payment of $1,500. Next slide, please. And then we wanted to show an example of enhancement that somebody might do through this CSP program. And here is a pollinator planting. So we had an area that was vegetated, as you can see, but we made it into a pollinator planting to help increase pollinator populations. And also, if you're a vegetable farmer or something, would definitely help with pollinating all the things that we eat. Anything else to add there, Denise?
No, I think the thing about CSP is they are enhancements, and a lot of times it's payment for management opportunities on the landscape. So whereas EQIP, as Ashley said very adequately, is our fixer-upper program with a lot of structural practices on the landscape, a lot of things we pay for in CSP is just better management of the land and the crops and the animals. So on to the next slide. Okay, I'll take this one. This is the Agricultural Conservation Easement Program. It's called ACEP. We provide financial and technical assistance to help conserve both agricultural lands and wetlands. So we have two components to what I'm going to say is ACEP, our easement program. And that is, the first component is probably something you may be very much familiar with because Pennsylvania leads the nation as a number of conservation easements on agricultural land for the purpose of protecting those farmlands. But we have an ACEP program that helps state agencies like the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture and local land trusts put conservation easements on their farm to protect the prime, unique, and important soils on that farm. So very much we work hand in hand. We're kind of probably, I would say, the silent hand behind some of the state funding that goes to protect conservation prime farmland across the Commonwealth. So just to let you know that we have a component that we work and cost share with the state agencies to actually provide funds to producers. So this is our primary program, I would say, within Pennsylvania. We do a lot of work with local land trusts and Department of Agriculture to actually purchase conservation easements. All of the conservation easements that we purchase on the land buy the development rights in perpetuity on that land. So while there's allowances for producers to allow maybe one or two children to build a house on it, the real item behind the ACEP farmland component is that farmland remains there for future farm generations to farm. So that's a little bit about that particular program. And then the second program that we'll talk about is the Wetland Reserve Easement Program. And that is out there really designed to restore wetlands. And just to get into it, you can flip the slide. That's a permanent easement as well. But the Agricultural Land Easements Program is, again, helping the farmers keep land in agriculture. Land that is eligible includes cropland, grassland, pasture land, and non-industrial forest land. And like I said, we're kind of a silent financial partner to many of the state agencies. We provide up to 50% of the fair market value of ag land for that easement. We have some exciting opportunities within ACEP as well, where if we find grasslands of special significance, which we do have in some portions of the south central part of the Commonwealth, we do provide up to 75% cost share. But next slide. And then, of course, we have our Wetland Reserve Easement Program, and that is seeking to go out there and really take some of those lands that may have been converted to agriculture, that maybe aren't the producer's most productive lands, and convert those lands to wetlands. And we have our enrollment options are permanent easements. So just a little bit about that too, to let you know. While this is not probably our bread and butter of programs, we have over 1,000 easements in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so it's actively used. I would say it's probably an 80%, 20% split. 80% of our easements are the farmland preservation easements, and 20% are our wetland reserve easements. So very much an opportunity for producers that are seeking to keep their land in agriculture or keep their land suitable for wildlife in perpetuity to have that option. And next slide. And then we have, all right, Ashley's laughing at me. We have this, Pennsylvania is lucky because we're one of 16 states in the country that gets this agricultural management assistance program. And that is really a program that is designed to help farmers manage their risk through diversification of crops, manage their risk to help in situations of drought, manage their risk in situations of flooding. So this provides us a little bit extra money above and beyond our traditional EQIP and CSP programs, and it allows us to do, next slide, things like high tunnels. It also allows us to assist producers with pest management. It allows us to assist producers with irrigation. And so those are the primary practices put on the landscape for using AMA. Next slide. And then kind of an umbrella program, and it's a little bit of a complex program, not necessarily suited particularly to farmers and landowners, although ultimately farmers and forestry landowners benefit from this program, is the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. And it is a program in which we look to have entities, either state or local, on the ground entities apply and leverage federal dollars with their dollars to do the very same on the ground activities that we just provided examples of in our traditional programs on the landscape. So really what the Regional Conservation Partnership Program is designed to do is make that federal dollar go that much further by leveraging partner programs. And it not only helps us from the perspective of making dollars go further, it helps us target specific watersheds. It helps us work in specific areas to maybe protect a municipal water supply. It helps us protect a certain species. So it does many different things, and and it's used quite heavily in Pennsylvania. Right now, we have about 4 or 5 ongoing projects, but we've had more than a dozen since the inception of this program, and it's helped dozens and dozens of producers. So moving on to the next slide.
Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about our accomplishments for fiscal year 2022. Our fiscal year runs from October through the end of September, but that's how we, and that's our calendar year that we use to track our work that was done within the year. So for last year, as far as projects, we had over 37,000 conservation practices applied across our state for conservation technical assistance, which is technical assistance not tied to one of these financial assistance programs that we talked about. So it's that free technical assistance that we mentioned that we offer. We did 1,608 conservation plans on over 238,000 acres. Then for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, we wrote 436 contracts on over 58,000 acres for over $29 million. For the Conservation Stewardship Program, we wrote 225 contracts on over 90,000 acres for over $10 million. And then we have the easement programs that Denise just mentioned. So for ALE or the ag land easements, it was 555 acres acquired. We spent over 559,000 for that. We didn't have any wetland reserve easements that we picked up in fiscal year 2022, but we do have some that we're working with currently.
That's correct. And if you go to the next slide.
I'll keep going. We have agricultural management assistance with 36 contracts on 1,458 acres for over $540,000. And then for the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, we did 30 contracts in there for 3,453 acres and over $5 million.
So if you go to the next slide, it's really hard to see when you look at all that money and those acres, what does that mean? But I think this map gives you a little bit of an idea of what the applied practices are and what the differences are on the landscape and where we're working. So each one of those dots on the map represents a single conservation practice applied. It may represent, 1 or 2 landowners, or it may represent 10 practices, maybe 1 landowner, but you get the idea that we are across the Commonwealth putting practices on the ground actively. So next slide. We get a lot of questions about where does the money go? And we in Pennsylvania, we are the largest, most dense stream state in the continental United States, meaning we have more streams every square mile than any other state in the country. And so a lot of our money, as you can imagine, is dedicated to clean water and better wildlife health, habitat, and better soil health. But this map particularly shows you the conglomeration of all that money and where it goes by watershed. As many of you are aware, there's a lot of emphasis in Pennsylvania on the Chesapeake Bay, which makes up about 65% of the state. And a lot of money goes there to do ag and forestry practices. But we also do work in the Delaware, which is a very important watershed for us, as it's a major tributary to Philadelphia, New Jersey, and New York water supplies. So a lot of work being done there. And then you go out to the Ohio, and we can't forget that the Ohio is certainly part of the Mississippi drainage system. And a lot of the work that we do is a lot of grazing work to reduce nutrients going off pastures and other things to reduce the amount of nutrients that actually contribute to the Mississippi River hypoxic zone. So we're very much very interested in working in the Ohio River and do a lot of work there. And then finally, probably the smallest watershed is the Great Lakes, and that's the Western Lake Erie basin, and we do a lot of work, a lot with vineyards and other groups to assist in a lot of cropland practices to assist that particular watershed. But you will notice that it makes up a very small portion of Pennsylvania, but generally speaking, we do have several projects, a handful of projects there every year. So moving on.
Okay, one of the things I mentioned that I oversee here in our state office is the National Water Quality Initiative. That's actually an initiative under the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. So we do have a program manager that works with that and handles the funds. But I wanted to show you on this map that we have 5 watersheds throughout the state that we have targeted for this. And the goal of the NWQI, or National Water Quality Initiative, is to take streams or watersheds that are currently listed as ag impaired. So ag impaired refers to sediments and nutrients that would be in the water at a higher than desirable rate. And we want to target those areas to do conservation work, education, outreach, and make improvements in those watersheds so that eventually the end goal is that those streams would be delisted or no longer listed as ag impaired. So you can see here, I want to point out that we have 2 that are source water protection pilots. So source water is the source of drinking water. So those would be Swatara Creek and Maiden Creek. Those are 2 that we have that we're working to reduce turbidity, reduce sediments, reduce nitrates in those, because those are costly to remove from drinking water. We also show here that we have the Upper Kishicoquillas Creek, Upper Yellow and Upper Yellow and Beaver Creek, and Warrior Run is the northernmost one. It's a small watershed in Northumberland County. So those involve writing watershed assessment plans, working with partners and stakeholders to do work and water quality monitoring in those areas to track improvements. So we're in our 5th year of working in some of those watersheds that were selected back in 2019.
Yeah. And we're in those areas for the long term because, as Ashley said, we're interested in seeing results of what our concentrated conservation implementation can mean for those waters. So, okay, moving to the next slide. A little bit different spin. So for many of you, if you're an agricultural producer or forestry landowner, you may not be aware, but we have what I would call silent guardians across the Commonwealth, and those are flood control dams. And while the Corps of Engineers is a primary dam builder for many of the larger dams, the majority of dams, there's over, I think, nearly 12,000 dams put in across the country, but approximately 90 of them in rural areas were put in by the USDA. And so those dams are really, for the most part, flood control dams. And what's happening is those dams were put in the 70s, primarily the 60s and 70s, and they are coming at the end of their lifespan. So we have a major effort to rehabilitate those dams. In most cases, those dams are aging gracefully. They're still doing what they were designed to do, but there are new specifications. We also have increased rain. And so we are slowly but surely rehabilitating those dams. And many of those dams, I think all of the dams that we're looking to rehabilitate are what's considered high hazard dams, meaning those dams are protecting local communities, they're protecting local homes, and they're protecting local businesses. And so there's a real need to continue with that program, to rehabilitate those programs, particularly in the situation because of our storms are getting more intense. So this is just a snapshot of some of those areas that we're currently working in, where we're working. The program manager for this program, she tells me all the time, Denise, this is a crock pot program, meaning that it takes a while to to have it, actually implement it. We have a planning process, a design process, and then a construction process. So things take a little bit of time to complete, but when you're dealing with high hazard dams and having a lot of eyes and planning beforehand, it's a good thing. So next slide.
Okay, this is a conservation innovation grant. So that is another a program that I oversee. Last fiscal year, we did our 4 agreements through this grant program, and they were funded for $290,772. We did have 2 existing agreements that got completed. The main thing I want to tell you about conservation innovation grants is therefore work that is both innovative and transferable. So it's taking something that's been tested a little bit and maybe expanding it or outreaching it, trying it in a new ag sector or a new location. Next slide, please. Oh, I thought there was something else there.
So just a little bit, we talked a little bit about the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. This is where we're working with state agencies like the PA Department of Agriculture and local groups like the Chesapeake Conservancy to actually put our conservation practices on the ground, but again, leveraging those federal dollars to do so. And you can see that oftentimes we are not the primary funder of those projects. We might be helping with technical assistance, but our financial assistance dollars are sometimes dwarfed by partners, technical assistance, as well as financial assistance to get those projects on the ground. Next slide. And so I think this kind of summarizes some of our financial assistance programs and the technical assistance that we put out there on the landscape. We're happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
All right, thank you so much for that information, Ashley and Denise. I'm going to ask if anyone has questions for them. Please hold your questions until the end of our presentation. And I'm just going to briefly now provide you with some information on Senator Casey's Office of Constituent Services. So you can go to the next slide, Maria. Alrighty, so Senator Casey's Office of Constituent Services consists of a team of constituent advocates who assist constituents who are experiencing issues with a federal agency. This includes, but is not limited to, Social Security benefits, missing passports, IRS problems, VA benefits, immigration snags, SBA concerns, and more. After receiving written permission, our office is able to follow up with the federal agency on a constituent's behalf to check on the status of pending claims or appeals, ask questions, relay information and concerns, and demonstrate Senator Casey's interest in a matter. Under the law and rules of the U.S. Senate, we cannot force a federal agency to act in someone's favor. And it's also important to note that if we cannot provide assistance, such as with a state or private entity, we can refer constituents to someone who can best help. Go ahead to the next slide. So specifically regarding USDA, we can connect with USDA on your behalf if you have a loan or grant application and would like a status update, or if you have a question or concern about the loan or grant you are applying for or that you have received. We can also contact USDA if you have a loan with USDA, such as a mortgage, and there's missing payments. Our office can also assist with subsidy renewal questions about a loan. Furthermore, we can reach out to the National Finance Center if you are or were a federal employee and have a question or concern about your retirement when it is going through this stage. Go ahead to the next slide. If you would like to request assistance from Senator Casey's Office of Constituent Services for an issue with any federal agency, please do not hesitate to contact our office at 717-231-7540 or our toll-free number, which is 866-461-9159. And you can also reach out to Senator Casey's office via his website at www.casey.senate.gov/contact/assistance. So we will now open this portion of the presentation for any questions for USDA or Senator Casey's office. If you have a question, you may click the raise hand button, which is at the bottom of your participant list, to indicate that you have a question. I'll call on participants that have a question one by one, and I'll mute you. Please note that this is a public call, so we ask that you please keep your questions general. If you have a specific issue, please feel free to contact us via the information on the screen. So just again, if anyone has a question, at the bottom of your screen, there's a little what looks like a hand. Alrighty, I see Jackie that you have a question. Let me unmute you. Hold on one moment. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself, Jackie.
Typed in part, and I just wondered if you cover information or advice about carbon sequestration for us, particularly transforming a field to a forest.
Yes, we do provide assistance with that. You can contact your local USDA service center and ask for NRCS, and we do actually do what's called tree planting. We would go out and probably first advise you to have a forest management plan, and then move ahead to actually plant those trees for carbon sequestration. So yes.
Do you have information on like a list of trees, or you just native trees?
Yeah, those lists are really tailored to each individual county. So if you're in the northwest part of the state, you may have a very different tree list than perhaps in the southeast portion. So we advise that folks reach out to your local conservation NRCS agency, and they're usually, we could put back the map, but for people to see, you can go onto our website, and there's a way that you can get to your particular county and contact those folks, and they will actually encourage you to get a plan, conservation plan, and then also encourage you to plant the species that are best suited to your soils and your site.
Okay,
And I do like what you were saying there. Our tree list does contain native trees. And then as Denise was saying, we also look at the type of soils and see if it's a wet area or a drier area to tailor that to what would be best for you. And sometimes we work in conjunction with local service foresters as well.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, if anyone else has a question, you can feel free to raise your hand. Alrighty, well, not seeing any other questions. If you leave this webinar and you think, oh, I should have asked that question, you can reach out to us using the information currently on the screen, preferably the phone number 717-231-7540. And we'll take your question, and if it's something our office can't answer, I'll pass that along to Ashley and Denise, and they would be more than happy, I'm sure, to get an answer for you. But I want to thank you, our panelists. Thank you for being here today. And for those of you watching, thank you for taking some time out of your day to learn more about this topic. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you.